So, dear brothers and sisters, if you've ever had the experience of working with children, some of you are too young to have recognized this, but a stage comes when children are no longer children, and then they're kind of teens. And then a stage comes then when they're no longer teens, but they're actually already in university. And by then, in some fields, they might know more than you. And then kind of into their late 20s, they might understand an awful lot about their certain area, area of expertise, and especially when it comes to technology. I was in a hardware store recently, and there was this man with the glasses kind of the end of his nose with his phone in his hand going, how do you do this? Where did I put it? Where on earth? He said, it's normally my nephew. I just give it to him and he just goes, it's done. Do you know, and where on? And it's just very funny, like, he's a little older than me. He said, it's all this technology, touchscreen, I don't know how it all works. But it's just interesting, like, when you're teaching, if you've been a teacher for some years, and the stage will eventually come where you're now teaching the children of students you once taught. You know, if you're teaching for like 15, 20 years, you will eventually be teaching the children of former students. So it's a very interesting thing. Because the children that we look at or teach, or the children that we educate, the children that we run family days for and faith camps for, like in the not so distant future, they're going to be parents, and your future politicians, and your future engineers, and your future farmers, and your future everythings. So just this line from today's gospel really struck me. When they look at when the people see some of the miraculous situations surrounding the birth of John the Baptist, they say, what will this child turn out to be? What will this child turn out to be? I remember actually Maura here, when she was getting married, her dad gave the father speech, and he said, sure, Maura, when she was born, she was so small. She was a very, very small baby. And this is like, this should be one of those moments where the father is saying, I looked at her and my heart was just filled, gushing with love and so on and so forth. And I thought, here's my little princess. But that's not what he said. He said, I just looked at her and looked at the size of her. And I said, Janie, what will become of her? And we were all... it wasn't exactly the most complimentary thing to say for a father's speech, giving away his wee daughter. But anyway, point being, what will this child turn out to be? What will this child turn out to be? Because each one of us has a vocation. And there's a global vocation, so like a large vocation, which is that all of us become saints and all of us get to heaven. And that is something that we all have. That's the Second Vatican Council would call it the universal call to holiness, the universal call to sanctity. So that's our vocation in a more global sense. What are we all called to be or to do? We're all called to become saints and get to heaven. That's the global vocation. Then, slightly narrower, there's your particular vocation in life. So to be single, to be married, to be religious, or maybe a combination of some of those, depending on how your life works out. We all have a period of being single. In theory, you can be married, and then a little later in life, you can become religious as well. Anyway, yes, that's a more particular vocation, right? So, which also requires discernment, and this here then is where the Lord wants to realize my participation in the building up of His kingdom. Right? And then there's kind of if we narrow the focus even more, there's what's my vocation today? What's my vocation today? I remember a friend of mine years ago trying to discern what her path was, and she spoke to a priest. And the priest asked her, well, what are you doing at the moment? And she said, well, I'm a student. He said, well, in that case, your vocation at the moment is be the best student you can be. Do that. Do that well. And then the next step will become apparent in time. But do what you have in front of you now, do that well. And then the next step will come. So I think it's interesting, like when we look at when we work with children, when we work with families, I mean, all of those people will eventually grow up, and then in 30, 40 years' time, they might be the ones teaching us, they might be the ones nursing us, they might be the ones doing surgery on us, replacing our hips, and who knows what else, the generations move on. So today's the feast of St. John the Baptist, and there is a beautiful parallel between, you've probably noticed this, but it's good to mention it, a beautiful parallel in the narrative about the birth of John the Baptist and the birth of Jesus. So, as you know, both experienced, both sets of parents, or both parents, experienced some sort of vision. Okay, so you have Zechariah. It's his turn to serve in the temple. He goes there and he sees the archangel Gabriel, who says that he is to have a child. And he does not believe this because his wife is well on in years, as the biblical expression goes, and he too is no spring chicken. That's not biblical vocabulary. But he also is an old man. And he said, how is this to happen? And the angel responds, I am Gabriel, who stand before God. I was sent to speak to you and to announce you this good news. But now you will be speechless and unable to talk until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled at the proper time. Further, meanwhile, elsewhere, a little later on, we have a similar situation where the archangel Gabriel appears to Mary, and with a similar message that she is to conceive and bear a son without having knowledge of man, so without having physical intimate relationships or relationship. And now she doesn't ask in doubt, she asks to clarify. I mean, how am I supposed to become a mother if I have no knowledge of man? I mean, I want to do your will, I just don't know how I'm supposed to do this. I mean, if I'm going to be a mom, well, that requires physical intimacy. Not married yet, so just what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do this? It's understandable that you would ask a question. I see what your plan is. Good. What's my next step? What am I supposed to do here? And then the archangel Gabriel clarifies: the power of the Holy Spirit will come upon you. So what you will conceive will be holy. So she believes and then responds with her fiat. May it be done unto me according to your word. So we see a parallel story with a slightly different element there. Zechariah seems to react in disbelief. Well, based on the reaction of the archangel Gabriel, he was unhappy with Zechariah's reply. So there must have been a certain lack of faith there, which again is entirely comprehensible. I mean, any of you who have, maybe none of you have grandparents in their 70s, but maybe you do. If you have grandparents in your 70s, right, and your granny says, I think I'm going to have a baby. Say, Granny, what's been put in your tea this morning? I mean, it's understandable like that there would be doubt in your mind that's just not like medically possible. Okay, there might be one exceptional circumstance in 3.5 billion, but for the most part this doesn't really happen. He disbelieves, Zechariah disbelieves and is struck down dumb. Mary believes and becomes for us an example of faith. What will John the Baptist become? He will become someone who prepares the way for the Lord. Prepares the way for the Lord. He does so with great courage. Keep in mind how he spoke to Herod, calling him out on taking his brother's wife, his sister-in-law as his own wife. And he does so with great humility. When he sees the Lord, he says, I'm not worthy to undo the strap of his sandal. So he prepares the way for the Lord, does so with courage and does so with humility. 10 years ago, ye were all little kiddies, running around looking for toys and rainbows and unicorns and pookies and whatever else he did, dolls and playhouses and makeup sets. Well, makeup sets still happens, but all of that, 10 years ago. And now, 10 years later, you're preparing the way for the Lord in people's hearts. You guys are helping people come to know the Lord. Your example, your prayer, your service helps people come to know Jesus. So we all share in this vocation to different degrees of making the Lord known and loved, of making disciples of all nations. Not so long ago you were just kids. And now you have this John the Baptist-like vocation to prepare a way, a path in the wilderness so people can come to know the Lord. That's an incredible privilege. You're still young, so it's good to do it while you're still young, while you still have life in you, while you still have enthusiasm and joy to unleash that faith in the world, in your environment, in your family, in your university. We have this John the Baptist-like vocation, which the Lord asks us to live in a similar way, to live with courage, to live it with humility, that we prepare the way for the Lord, that people can hear his voice in such a loud and distracting world, that they can see the effect of his grace, but tangibly in someone's life, not just in a book or the life of a saint from 200 years ago, but that they can see in you right now in front of them. Your faith makes a difference to you, doesn't it? Your faith makes you happy. Your faith gives you hope. Why? And there you go. There's your opportunity presented on a plate to prepare the way for the Lord with courage and humility. So we ask the Lord today to help us to avail of all those opportunities in great simplicity, always relying on his grace, that we can follow the example of St. John the Baptist and prepare a way in the hearts of people for the coming of the Lord. Amen. Dear brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining us here in Holy Family Mission for our Mass or for the homily. It's great to be able to serve you from our little chapel here in Glencomer House. We'd like to announce our summer fundraiser, which this year, kind of unusually, is a skydive. So there'll be about 12 young people, including myself, doing a skydive in aid of Holy Family Mission to continue our work here of faith formation of the many young people who come through our doors. It's great to be able to do this work, but it does cost money. So we greatly appreciate your help and your support, which you can do via our website, holyfamilymission.ie. That would be an amazing grace for us to be able to continue this work long into the future. We're fast approaching our 10th anniversary, 10 years of Holy Family Mission. Again, such a grace and privilege and proof of the Lord's providence over all these years, which he has done through your good selves. So thank you all very, very much in advance for your prayer and your support, and may God bless you.